Adams Oshiomhole, and who is saying that he's been speaking with the president and that he has the president's okay, that, what they discussed, he was at liberty to go public with it. But before I go any further, my guest is Mr. Jide Ologun. He's a lawyer and political affairs analyst. Thank you very much, as always, Jide, for coming on.
You're welcome, sir. It's my pleasure.
Indeed, it is ours. Well, and I hope you didn't see the rain, because it suddenly poured it all down in Lagos.
I actually prayed for the rain last Sunday, given the heat that
yes,
we're going
it's been
through.
so very
for
much.
me, it's a great relief.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it.
That was how it was day before yesterday, and then, yesterday gave us a break, and now here we are today. The heavens opened up, and as people like to say, cats and dogs. But of course, geology being what it is, there are people who will be saying, what are they talking about? In my area, not a drop, Okay, but back to internal democracy and Edo State, because it is a point that our guest yesterday sort of emphasized. But okay, the very broad statement is that it looks like they're going to have to, reapproach the Edo primaries, and today is actually the day, if I'm not mistaken, Thursday.
Absolutely.
Yes. So they're going to have to do it, start all over again. They have changed the chairman of the election committee, that is for Governor Hope Uzodinma, and have replaced him with his deputy.
Great. All this drama should pay attention to the fact that the party may find itself on a slippery ground, because our laws are clear, INEC regulations are clear on what should be done. And I monitored the response of the INEC spokesperson that declared point blank that what we guide INEC is the fact that the venue of the primary should have been communicated by the national leadership of the party, not even the state leadership, and that any primary that does not hold at the prescribed venue will not be recognized. You see, so, and only one of the candidates started in the venue. When the result was finally declared, it was outside of that venue. And these are issues that should be avoided, because we know that even by Supreme Court decision, pre-election matters are purely party matters. But parties also should try and understand the position of the law. You look at Section 178 of the Constitution, it stipulates, some prescriptions for them to guide them. You look at Section 28 of the Electoral Act as amended. And so these are issues. It's not about the drama. So that at the end of the day, the party doesn't end up not benefiting or going for an election that we have no foundation to rest on.
Indeed, given what you've just said, and being that there is no shortage of lawyers within the APC, indeed within all of the parties, why do you think it was as sloppy as it appears to have been?
Let's take it back to, I've heard the expression internal democracy.
Yep.
I think we should also begin to...
In fact, that's our subject matter this morning, internal democracy.
What does it mean?
What does it entail?
Democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So let the majority of the people, in politics, let them decide who their candidates will be, because what we know is that the candidate that is prompted from the primary level will go and represent the party at the election. So if that candidate is not of popular endorsement, you see, that may not be democratic in nature. And when you talk about internal democracy, it also touches on the processes and procedures, that paves the way for arriving at who the candidate is. But I was going to say that we should also begin to read about internal disciplinary measures. You see, not a situation where within the party, some politicians just jump up and begin to run parallel primaries. And if you don't have consequences for this, absolutely, this drama will continue.
Well, and what refers to the ruling APC that we're talking about now, the most recent instance of which has been the now, cancelled primaries in Edo State. LP, Labour Party, also has its issues. As you know, Abure has been arrested.
There are allegations of misappropriation.
All of these are coming out now. So I just thought to sort of say that, look, we should extend this. It's not exclusively about APC. We're looking at internal democracy. It's just that APC has been in the news because they've just come out of a major event. Look at the situation with LP and Abure. What do you think is going on? What would be your commentary there?
Those are criminal allegations. And of course, the law enforcement agents have stepped in to investigate. And in the criminal justice ecosystem, you have three very important engagements. You talk about thorough investigation, you talk about diligent prosecution before a committed judiciary. So if their facts are strong enough, if their evidences and they have their witnesses, yeah, let them go if they believe he should be prosecuted. But I hope it won't be like many allegations that we have in the country, because in the Constitution also, there is the presumption of innocence. So you don't convict a man based on mere allegations. What the law says is that those allegations must be proved beyond all reasonable doubt. And where do you do that? In the course of prosecution. So as it is now, I hope it's not a media trial we are going through. But if those allegations are serious enough, the law enforcement agents, they know what to do. And talking about the political parties, you recall also, even within the PDP.
That's right.
There were rancors, though not as prominent as to knock off the primaries that the party conducted. And even the last general elections, you saw even during the tribunals how the leadership of Labour Party kept on clashing, even in the presence of judicial intervention. So these are issues with politicians. And that is why I am suggesting that we should begin to have sanctions, consequences for some of these unruly actions, though the politicians may not consider them as unruly, so that we sanitize the processes and we don't give the impression that you can just...
Run commentary on what you are showing us, because I'm listening to him.
Okay.
So tell me what pictures are there so I can relay that. You get? Sorry, sir.
So these are issues before us right now. If there are no consequences for interrupting legitimate processes, then we continue with it. And that is a challenge for us. We need to upscale the finesse involved in our electoral exercises.
Well, there's an attitude with it's people. People often say that there's nothing wrong with the structures, nothing wrong with the system. It's the people. It's the people, because oftentimes we'll come along and say in relation to something, for instance, internal party democracy and all of that. Say, look, there's really, if the people would only do the right thing and practice it, then we wouldn't have these issues. But when somebody tries to get an advantage or interpret it as he sees favors him, as opposed to being on the straight and narrow, in other words, being a good sport, that's where it doesn't matter how many times you amend the system, it is thought. If the people are still not going to play fair and square. Okay, for instance, look at the case of LP. Mr. Bure there, as you said, grievous, criminal charge of allegedly forging a signature. Now, all of that depends, of course, on, you must prove. He who alleges must prove and all of that. But isn't it about, can you blame, because when you said finesse our systems, where will you finesse them to? If people are not going to be true, they're not going to be true.
Let me amplify the position of system. And let me use the automobile environment.
Okay.
There's a vehicle produced and prescribed to use petrol as power. There's another one prescribed by system to use diesel.
Yes.
So you don't pour...
Yet another one, gas.
And you don't pour diesel into a petrol engine car. it will lead to crisis. That's what I mean by system. I agree with you. The people manage the system, but the system should function in a way that people don't hijack the system. And that's why I'm calling for consequences. We still have an issue in this country now. Look at how the G5 handled their party, PDP, to the extent that jeopardized the victory of PDP relatively. Until date, there hasn't been any sanction. It's what we are saying. So a system should be in place that will say, you do this, these are the consequences. Let me make allusion to some. You recall that in the course of the judicial interventions during after the last elections, some lawyers were slammed some heavy penalties. Go and pay 40 million for bringing a frivolous matter to the court. That is systemic. But where there are no consequences, you cannot help. I read a story, a federal minister in China that was found culpable of corruption, was sentenced to, was it even to death? I don't know if that has been implemented. That is system. You saw what happened in the UK. In the case of Honorable Ekweremadu, the UK said he may be honorable in Nigeria, while system frowns at organ trafficking and modern slavery. So note it, let the whole world note. So if we come to the point where within the parties, there are not just reactive mechanisms in managing crisis, as we say in public relations, but also proactive mechanism. When the players know that if I do this, this will happen. But in a situation where you just find everybody, colliding with each other, I read in this case, one of the candidates has gone to Abuja and reportedly he angrily stormed into the to demand for his return certificate. No, I mean we should be seen to be organized. So I lay it on the table of APC, and the elders have a saying that the hunter should not run to town from the farm, and you ask him what is pursuing you, and he tells you a dog is pursuing me. No. We should be improving, but I hope that they will clean up, because I started from the legal framework. Yeah. Right now, there is a timetable for all this. The primary should have been conducted. It should be between, I think, the 1st of February and 24th of February or thereabout. I think 4th of March, you should have submitted the name of your candidate from the primary. And by the 23rd of April, the final list should be out from INEC. And campaign cannot start until 24th of April. So these things are there. You are expected to have studied it. Exactly. Let it guide you. That's what we call management by objective, as espoused by Peter Drucker. So that it guides you. It's not just that we just go in there like a non-strategic combat. Yes,
along the lines of what you're saying, shouldn't it be that, okay, this is in the case of APC, that's the revised, program, schedule of officers and all of that. But these things go without saying. It's not in the middle of a soccer match, for instance, that you start talking about the rules that shall govern this particular contest. When I saw the party leader, the APC party leader in Edo State on television yesterday, speaking about and explaining the situation, that he was explaining the situation that should obtain at this late date, as opposed to before they even went into the elections. He made the point that, for example, in the case of APC that we're talking about now, he said it was widely circulated that anybody who was qualified could go ahead and acquire a form. It's not a matter of where you come from, what zone you're in. This no zoning that he pronounced quite categorically in his explanation, maybe it ought to have been known before the commencement of the contest. Then there will be very little room for quote-unquote misunderstanding.
You see, zoning is not recognized by the Constitution, neither by the Electoral Act. These are just practices born out of convenience,
yes, for convenience.
What we have agreed on. And like you brilliantly mentioned, it should have been known to the parties. In fact, the ideal of democracy is that put the best candidate forward. So if 17 candidates can afford to purchase the nomination form, allow them. Then they go and test the popularity with the party members who are endorsed to be part of the primary. Let them vote their choice. Then present that choice. But a situation where a venue was communicated to INEC, one candidate started there, they did not even finish there. Another one went to another hotel entirely. Another one to an undisclosed venue and just made announcements.
You then begin to wonder,
see a returning officer.
Were these things done intentionally to cause confusion? Because it's ludicrous. The way we're now that we have the background of understanding what exactly the issues were, some of which you have highlighted yourself, that these things are governed by law. INEC is also now saying that the national body of the party should have communicated to us.
They did. It was a venue communicated to INEC that INEC went to monitor. That was disclosed.
Yes.
But they did not even finish there. So INEC is now insinuating that if at all we are even going to recognize any candidate, it may be the candidate that was elected at the prescribed venue of the national leadership of the party. You understand?
Yes.
So it's not about that, but it's about the consequence I'm saying. And you mentioned something that could it have been the hand of Esau and the skin of whatever? I read a report that the opposition party may be sponsoring some rancor within the party. But if that is the case, it's just like the argument of Nigeria that the colonialists are the ones who have thrown us into the poverty crisis we have when they left us over 60 years ago. So if you don't have an internal mechanism to resist undue interruption from opposition, so be it. And I also read, which may really qualify that as relevant, a former commissioner in Edo State who joined APC recently from PDP.
Yes.
He has now resigned, that he's not even going to join any party. You know, so you find all this in politics. But by practice, this democracy of Nigeria did not start last week. The players should have been able to understand how these things flow.
Indeed.
And organize in a way that we don't have all these embarrassing rancors.
Really.
But I amplify.
Let me just apologize to Mr. George. He's been holding on for quite a while. I wanted you to land. Good morning to you, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Good morning to the guests. Uncle Yori, when the Supreme Court in the judgment during elections said that party primaries is a party affair, whoever the party brings is what I foresaw this type of chaos coming during primaries. This is just one state we are seeing. At the time that 36 states are conducting primaries, and the parties know that whoever the party says is the person that they want and is who will be recognized. You can imagine the kind of chaos that we're going to have, about our elections.
Sort of.
Perhaps,
Mr. George, sorry to interrupt you. If you recall, on yesterday's program, Abubakar called in from, I believe it was Kaduna, and made this very, very point. But please continue, sir.
Yes. So you can see, I saw the party APC leader in Edo State, Comrade Adams Oshomole, on television yesterday. And from what I could read from his body language, he is totally against zoning. And it appears that his disagreement with zoning is what he's meant. Most of all those APC party aspirants, all of them can be called his products. But they are all against him on this subject, including people from, including the APC aspirants from Edo Central, where he is insisting, Edo South, where he is insisting the next candidate must come from. I think the problem in the APC primary in Edo State appears to be resting on the party leader himself. He cannot become a majority on his own just because he's a party leader. After listening to him yesterday, it occurred to me that what the other men from his party have been coming to say on television is true. I stand to be corrected. So he is the one that the APC National Working Committee should appeal to allow democracy to stay. Otherwise, they will lose that election in Edo State. Uncle Yori, don't forget, this is a state. During the presidential election, Labour Party got the highest votes there.
Yeah.
APC came third in that presidential election. And the attitude of the people, the mindset of the people could not have just changed drastically within these 8 months. You want to take over power in such an environment, and you are making this type of preparation. How are you going to succeed?
Indeed.
Good luck to them.
Well, thank you very much. So these are all the fallouts, that APC in this instance needs to consider. When Comrade Adams Oshiomhole was speaking yesterday, he made a number of points. One, that he himself was not a product of any kind of zoning. In fact, I think he said somewhere that he scored 100%, 18 over 18, in terms of, the different areas. So he said that I think he was saying that his philosophy, and he brought Mr. President in on the matter, saying that he's on the same page with Mr. President because he double-checked. And Mr. President has said, no zoning. Put forward your best foot. But the other side has said that that's unfair. It was explained that one side had been in the government house before. The other side had been in the government house before. But it is only the central that has never had an opportunity. And what they are saying is that everybody throw your hat in the ring. Let the people of Edo State decide, irrespective of where you come from, who the best candidate is. Now, isn't that slightly difficult because you can make points for each side of the argument?
Now, there are two public relations issues here. You have change management issue. You have psychological conditioning. You see, I said earlier that this issue of zoning is not constitutional. It was just a convenience adopted by stakeholders. But they have been conditioned to it. So how do you
conditioned to
that zoning? Whether you benefited or you did not, it's just like what we have in Nigeria today. Oh, it's the turn of South-South. Oh, it's the turn of Southwest.
Yes.
Oh, it's the turn of the North. You see, and North, we say, okay, our candidate only spent 2 years, we still have outstanding. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, and in change management, there are several issues. So you cannot just come in the middle of the game and say, we have to jettison zoning. We are talking about people. Where's the emotional intelligence?
And why didn't you say this from the very beginning? That this exercise...
It's again about the system.
Okay.
Have we been able to put leadership in a template that makes them strategic in their thinking and declarations, not to rock the boat? It's important. That's why when you find abroad, even a president is trained by public relations practitioners, by some professionals on how to handle issues, how to make statements, how to communicate. You see, so
because we have something of an imbroglio on
exactly.
our hands,
So
which is undesirable.
if you are driving a change, it must be with the vision of achieving an enhanced result,
and not lead to
not
instability.
Just that. Okay, but I'm not saying his statement is not because they are.
I beg your pardon, Mazi Okoroafo in Arochukwu. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, our guest.
Yes.
Now, the way we are talking, we should look at that issue of whether Edo or any state we're talking, or any part of Nigeria.
Or any party for that matter.
We should be talking about somebody who has what we call political intelligence, economic intelligence, social intelligence, religious intelligence. In anything we want to do, whether you zone or you don't zone. And somebody who have that, what people should be talking about, who will work, and make sure you have 3 square meals or 2. That's what we tell. Whether you zone or you don't zone, look at what is happening in. Let me take Abia State as a case study, and I'll go to for River State as a case study. Abia State, Ngwa people thought the road belongs to them. So because of that, when all those are left, TK came. Then Bazu, Oti now is on board. People enjoy that because Oti must have the background from the Ungwa zone. So must it be like that? Look at Abreba. Look at people from Ohosa. Are they not part of Abia? These are the problems Nigeria is facing in all the states. Because this issue of tribal sentiment in the state. River State, after the Civil War, Ikwere people took over what they call abandoned property. So Ikwere people feel that the River State belongs to them. The job were the predominant that has to do with Kensan-Owiwa and the rest. And Kensan-Owiwa made River State to be on the pipeline because of that incident of exploration. Now what happened? I think when the Ikwere people took over, the job was now Fubara has come on board. Should Ikwere people allow Fubara to sit down? So that is the problem that is in River State. That what they have done between 2 factions, Ikwere dominated area government and Ijo. Ijo said give them chance, which Fubara. But are they giving them? That is the issue. From Ikwere. You see, I have factions. So is that how we have to govern the state? Is that how we want to govern Nigeria?
Yeah.
That is why development does not come to states. If Nigeria will come back, pick whosoever that is ready to deliver, or just write it in your own state constitution. Let's call it state constitution. That from so state, the tribe will rule from so time to so time. Make it compulsory that everybody will know. That is the only solution.
Indeed. I want to thank you very much, Mazi Okora, for really appreciate your call. It goes back to the change management that you were talking about.
And the point I was going to make.
Yes, very briefly, because I got to go on a break.
He made it. It's about good governance. This issue of who should do all this rancor is not from my time, it's not from my... Yes. It's good governance. Let's have those who can move us forward and upward.
That, in effect, was what Oshiomhole was saying yesterday. It might not have been said to the satisfaction of all, but essentially he was saying that it's a merit matter. Don't come and say the time has come, this one hasn't, so we've zoned it. No zoning. Now, it does. One has to be able to manage it, as you had said. But let me quickly go on this break. We'll come back and talk some more about it. Stay with us, please. Video Logo, legal practitioner and political affairs analyst, and we're looking at the failure of the first attempt at getting a candidate for the governorship election in Edo State. It all stems on a difference of approach, and apparently not everybody was aware, even before the game started, if you can call selecting a candidate for an election a game, not everybody was on the same page or understood that certain things, certain processes, something guidelines that were now that have now come to the fore were what were going to be taken into utmost consideration. The Adams Oshiomhole was saying yesterday that it's about competency. It's about good governance. It's about democracy. He himself, he said, he offered, you might not have known, but he said he was not a product of zoning. So let everybody go before the entire body. Now, why is it such a difficult thing? Because should one, and I'm asking this as a theoretical question between us, should one sacrifice, for example, good governance? And I'm not necessarily referring to Edo State in this case. Should one sacrifice good governance to at the altar of, something representation? At the representation, it is somebody's turn. So the person you've ruled out as this not being his turn, he might be a wizard at governance. But sorry, we can't benefit from that because your time has passed and it is now the turn of so and so. What is your attitude to this? Shall we call it a psychological question? Should the people suffer the fact that we're not getting our best because it doesn't happen to fall in a zone but we are agreed, let it be so. It will go around again, and then we'll get the acknowledged genius in whatever is the objective that we're pursuing.
You know, it's
How do you resolve that question?
It's a Hydra perception matter. The ideal situation is to have those who will move us forward and upward from where we are. That's leadership. You know, good leadership is not just moving people to where they want to be, but where you believe they should be on the scale of development. But coming to the side of the electorates themselves.
Yes.
What do they need?
One, what do they need? Two, what do they know is what a lot of politicians might also say.
Exactly, and that's why I mentioned the issue of system the other time. You see, let's look at Singapore, for instance. What is the governance mindset in terms of the system over there? That these are things we want to achieve in the next 5 years, in the next 7 years, in the next 20 years. This is where we are going, a destination. So who can take us there will be the determining factor. Not that from which region is this person, from which region is that person. But again...
And the example you've just given would have been presented to the public way before election time. That this is the objective of the party. This is our program. This is our roadmap. And that will be the first statement, so we all know. Now, the next level will be when the time comes, who can lead us towards the objectives that you know very well, that we have spent the past 5 years, 2 years, 3 months explaining to you. That is the choice that you now have to make.
Okay, now, back to the system issue. If there are no consequences, even those who know that they cannot deliver towards that vision, we get involved. You know,
but
let me ask this question.
Shouldn't the electorate be able to sort that out? If you come and you don't have any known skills.
Let me just be explicit.
Okay.
Have we gone beyond going for primaries without exchanging envelopes? So for some electorates, it's a moment of harvest. That this not time when me say I go collect my own. So that's a problem on one side. So sometimes
it might end up with the person
even
having
when
the most money.
Candidate that we move to the next level is presented, and it cannot perform on the perception of those who just want to harvest before elections. That does he move? And these are the questions. And now again, do we have scales of measurement towards consequences for leaders that have gone through the system? Right now, we are reading about EFCC inviting a former governor. We know they have immunity when they are there. I have read about the National Assembly now seeking to invite the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, to come and explain the ways and means. You see, so where there is no accountability, then anybody will jump up. And the big question on the table today is that, is democracy for the fortune or misfortune of Nigeria, if evaluated now? These are big questions. And so, it's just like when you are applying for a job online, for instance, and you are to engage the portal. There are some questions they ask you. If you cannot provide the questions, that interaction terminates there. So we are yet to establish the culture of good governance in Nigeria. I mean, it's my opinion, and I stand to be corrected. And in the absence of that, where are we going? At the time, China went into the concept of isolationism. Now let's build. And it has paid well. They are moving around the world now and flaunting their economic prowess. So where exactly are we going?
Well,
where exactly are we going? And that will determine the kind of leadership and the kind of electorates that we have. They should be educated to know exactly what the needs of the future are. There are two ways to approach the future. You can either mortgage it or secure it.
Who is responsible for all of this? Is it not the party that must have a vision or a roadmap, or call it what you will, that you shall now bring a person to? For instance, the vision in, for example, Edo State that is being repeated now. What is the vision there? What is the attitude of the party? Because you said just about anybody under certain circumstances will get up. Oftentimes, the party seeks to guide the electorate, and sometimes it is called muscling. You're just trying to muscle us. Seek to guide the electorate as to, this is the person who can do the best job for this party. It's our suggestion. But the ultimate power is with the people to vote. Well, I see that you're smiling there. Say, how will that work? And that is why people like Mr. George, who called in, were saying that, wait a minute, we hope you don't lose this election by making yourself unpopular with the electorate. So that's another quagmire there.
And again, we are talking about micro and macro environments now, two environments. The primary is the micro, so manage it as you like. The real governorship election, I think on the 19th of September 2024, is the macro.
Yes.
So bring your candidate to come and slug it out with all that candidates.
So each party should be looking to put their best foot forward.
Even their best foot depends on what the expectations of the macro electorate community is. You see,
surely it's the job of the party to keep an eye on that very important thing you just said.
That is what I'm saying, because parties are also expected to sit down and learn from the last general elections. I have said this, I think, since 2017, that we come to a point in this country when voting will not even be based on party sentiment. You can be in PDP and vote for someone in another party because of your expectations.
Okay.
And that is why people are also calling on INEC that do your work. Because much has not been seen about benefits of democracy in this country. So are we going to continue? We don't have all the time. When leaders talk. I traveled to Abraka recently by road. Let some people go and venture that trips. There are challenges in this country, insecurity and everything. So, but then there is this percentage of electorate that I mentioned earlier. It's harvest time for them. They are not concerned about securing the future or sustainable prosperity. They just want what they can grab now. And some politicians are aware of that.
And let's just hope that those are not in the majority. That is people who don't have any ideological leaning at all. It's just the season, as you described it. The season has come. It doesn't matter what I think. What I'm thinking is, how do I harvest the most here? Now, that would be very, very unfortunate, but it is true. What you say is true. That exists, and there are people who are waiting for that season. Now, this is the big danger, and that's why I said that it behoves the parties, all of the parties, to keep an eye on the electorate and what their concept of a good person is, and then work, as it were, if it were not backwards. Because you just pointed out that, look, you could have a situation where somebody in party A might go ahead and vote for somebody in party C, because they feel that that is the better candidate. But do we really play our politics like that here? Is that not theoretical, that somebody in party A could look at, this guy is a first-class brain, IQ of 200, this and that's the person I'm going to vote for?
It's already happening. And I have a big picture question on that. So and this is a global question, who did Wike vote for during the last presidential election? If anybody can answer that question.
Yeah.
So we monitor these things.
You're right,
You don't have control over electorate. And the challenge I'm throwing to parties is that forget about the fact that Nigeria is in hardship, Nigeria is in poverty and things. This nation is evolving. More people are beginning to realize the superiority of sustainable development.
Jide, this one you went abroad just now. You said who did Minister Wike
vote for?
Who did he vote for?
Yeah.
The man voted Tinubu.
If anybody can answer.
The man voted Tinubu. But he was saying that my membership in this place is sacrosanct, in PDP.
Exactly.
I'm a member. I'm not leaving this party.
Exactly.
But this is where I'm putting my support.
So we are having a hybrid of democracy in Nigeria, a new concept. And the 1978 Mexican Statement about public relations says, is the art and social science of monitoring trends and predicting their consequences. You see, Nigeria is evolving to a point where citizens may even come out and say, we don't need democracy anymore. Now let's look for a different style of leadership. And it's obvious. Look at the protests that are being prompted across the country. Is it party affiliated or ethnicity affiliated or religion affiliated? Hunger is no respecter of religion or ethnicity or person. So these are issues. So
it also needs to be said that that is not an exclusively Nigerian affair.
Hunger
is not exclusively Nigerian.
We know, but
governments across the globe.
Those are the arguments we will bring on the table.
Yes.
But there are levels of hunger.
Okay.
All right. The whole world is challenged, but there are levels of hunger. I've seen some that have drawn tears to my eyes, Uncle Yori, and I can share some with you. Videos, pictures. You know, a politician said at a time, I think Second Republic or so, that Nigeria is not poor because people have not started eating from dustbins. Drive around Lagos now.
That was Umaru
See people picking things from public dustbin without even covering their faces. So we are talking and saying hunger is global. We know it's global. But please, should Nigerians be hungry? Nigeria has the largest deposit of proven gas in Africa. I read recently that they just discovered about 232 pipes installed by oil thieves. Who are these oil thieves? We are reading about the fake forex allocation through CBN, reading about trillions, Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. Imagine such a ministry diverting what should be used. And that's why some of us don't believe in palliatives. Because the conduit pipe you are sending the palliatives through are blocked conduit pipes. That will never get to the
that one you said. I was just reading somewhere that the government is starting again direct payments to Nigerians.
I read it, and that direct payments, is it not human beings that we facilitate the payments? What happened to trader monies? And that's what we are talking about system in this country. You know, sir, in some countries, you don't give somebody that responsibility and he comes back to tell you, and you are discovering later that so billions are missing. So please, let's get serious. This is a very prosperous nation by mandate.
And so what is
let's
the
enjoy
problem?
the good of the land.
Yes. So what is the problem? The problem is the people. We started talking about systems, whether we're looking at internal party democracy or indeed the national, polity. It's all about people. People are disappointing. People are put in place. It is the people who are failures, and there's someone like Mr. George. I can't speak for him, but he will phone in and say that there is nothing wrong with the system. There is nothing wrong with this system. It's not about changing the system.
Let me make comparisons.
It's not about changing the system. It's about changing the mindset of the people.
Scriptural
people
about
are
system.
busy sabotaging.
Scriptural, sir. You see, in Genesis chapter 41, sir, Joseph was invited to the palace, and he said, a famine is coming that will wipe off the abundance we have now. And the king believed him. And he said, let us save. Don't let us consume all now towards that moment. And a system was developed by which Joseph implemented that blueprint. And it succeeded. So I agree that people run systems, but leadership makes systems effective. I'm challenging the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Nigeria, my president, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, whom I respect so much. Sir, as long as you know those who are plundering our resources, those who steal our oil, those who divert our forex and everything, and you allow them to work freely, they don't have any other business than wickedness. They will frustrate your system. That's your system. There's a language you call take them out. You see, and we can point to some nations of the world. So these are issues about system. There are some human elements with international collaboration, all they do is to terrorize nations economically. And a federal minister came out, my highly respected Honorable Alake, that powerful people are behind illegal mining in Nigeria. Who are the powerful people? I read that a Chinese or so was arrested in Oyo State.
Did he mention these powerful
He should not
people?
mention them.
He should, wait a minute.
No, I'm talking sarcastically.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying if they like, let them not mention them.
Okay.
I was coming to a point, sir. I read about a Chinese that was arrested for illegal mining. I think in Oyo or Osun State. His name was mentioned. He has 2 colleagues who are Nigerians, one from the southeast, one from the southwest. And I say, is this ethnicity? So if you know them and you don't mention them, go back to Dubai. Let my president send someone back to Dubai if they cannot read it on their phone. What Dubai did. Dubai identified 6 sponsors of Boko Haram in Nigeria. They were all prosecuted and jailed. 2 to life imprisonment, the remaining 4 to 10 years. That is a system. You see, but it's good to bring. But here we is it here we don't do that, or here we can't do that? Which is it? We don't. It's not that we can't. We have the legal framework. We have the provisions of the law. But then we don't. We even admitted. It is not. These are not the words of Jide Ologun. The government admitted in the most recent dispensation that about 400 sponsors of terrorism have been identified in Nigeria. You know the meaning of identify? Except they were lying to us. So how many of them have we met? So you see, you don't, your room, if your room is infested with mosquitoes, you don't bring in air freshener. And please, I can be quoted. I can stand before the president to say this. As long as these wicked people, these Chambalat and Tobias, they are always there, are allowed to operate, we ain't going nowhere. Like they say in America. So, and that is the essence of having a system. That is the essence of having a system. So, you may have a system that is permissive.
These things that we say and that we have observed and that we have sort of worked out through research, study, analysis, you know, and all of that, we say these things, and yet it's okay for us to be at a bench here and say those things. But once you get into office, apparently, there's a matter about, wait, you're no more being an analyst. This is real life. Let us tell you how it works. Quite frankly, in case you didn't know, it's a cult. But now that you're in, you can't go out anymore. It's a cult. You will not go in a certain way. If you were to go that way, the whole system, now this is totally imaginary composition on my part, but that's the way people think. That is what goes on. Otherwise, these simple things that you are talking about.
That's a matter of perception, sir. But let me say this. Section 5 of the Nigerian Constitution, 1999 as amended, vests the executive power in the president. And with that executive power, you execute. How has Paul Kagame turned around the fortune of Rwanda? What did John Magufuli, what did he do in his lifetime to change the direction of governance in Tanzania? What did Lin Kuan Yew, what did he do? Well, what have they done in Mauritius? I'm going somewhere. And on these
instances, these are radical instances
radical
that
problems
you are citing.
Require radical solutions.
Exactly. I don't think we do radical solutions.
That is the point we are making.
We don't do radical solutions.
The resources are there for radical. If the president shut his doors, okay, a minister is found stealing, and he's coming to Aso Villa to see president. To see me for what now? Uncle Yori. Am I the chairman of DSS? Am I the acting chairman of EFCC? So why do you want to see me? Go and answer your questions now. We even read about Ghana here. A minister said on social media that she was going to take advantage of government. She was sent out. You see, we read these things. The Hungarian president resigned from office on issues. So My president, these are my personal opinions. I own it, and sincerely, I take 100% responsibility.
And a lot of Nigerians
if you allow wicked people around you, they will frustrate you. That's the truth of the matter.
And this message has been in the public, it's been in the press consistently.
And now we are now reading books about former President Buhari. He should have done this. He did not do this because who is interested in that? And a blessed country like this should be swimming in prosperity.
Exactly. In relation to the foreign exchange craze.
Exactly. Look at what we are reading about former CBN governor and the Senate president, and respectfully I'm responding to that. He's saying the government does not know what to charge him for. Okay, keep him and be romancing with him and let him be enjoying all. These are issues of our time. But no consequence.
Be careful, because that one has sued the Senate president. You remember? For how many billions?
It's because of the system. Okay. Who will sue in North Korea?
This is
so who will sue in Japan?
I was saying we don't do radical, and you're saying it's about time that we began to
go
do
sir,
radical.
Let me leave us with this. I guess we are rounding up.
We have to.
Please go and read Joshua chapter 7, verse 25. A man brought evil and defeat to the camp of the children of God. And the leader, when God revealed to him, went to him that, hey, you brought trouble to us, we must take you out. And when he was taken out, victory returned to the camp. And I am saying, please, I can be quoted anywhere globally, that irrespective of your intentions and your efforts, as long as the wicked, they can really overrun you, you are in trouble.
Okay, we're going to.
And if you know them, keep them around you. It's up to you. History is documenting.
That's a fine place to leave it. And as you know, they will tell us that these matters are well appreciated, but it's a matter of strategy how indeed they are addressed. You want to keep the boat upright. And
strategy itself is a long-term plan for success.
There you go.
And the opposite of success is failure.
So internal democracy is where, thank you. Internal democracy is where we started from, looking at focusing on party primaries in Edo State, but inevitably it led us to all,
because elections will launch into governance.
You're very right.
And we need excellent governance in our nation.
So thank you very much, Jide, for coming on this morning. Jide Ologun, lawyer and political affairs analyst. That's where we're going to have to leave it today. Do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin.